Hi, my name is George Coles, and I am an avid retro video game collector.
Do a barrel roll!
I have decided to document my journeys as I grow my collection. Please join me as I share with you my finds. Welcome to Retro Game Treasure Hunting. Hi everybody and welcome to Retro Game Treasure Hunting. My name is George Coles and let's jump right into my finds. First up, we get in this cool blue case, which is how it came. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know if it's picking it up so great on the camera with the glare, but it has the official Nintendo logo. I remember picking these up back in the day, but we have the Uncanny X-Men, or just X-Men for the NES, along with the actual manual, which is cool because you don't see manuals that often nowadays. And the manual in this is pretty cool. It's written like a comic book. Tells you a little bit of what to do strategy-wise. I digress. Put everything back. Keep this out of the thing here while I talk about it. Now, I bought this game, and I actually made a mistake when I bought this. And it's my own mistake. I had this game when I was a kid. I also had the Genesis era version. I had the Genesis X-Men, and I got the two confused. I thought that this was the X-Men game, the Genesis game. However, it's the NES. It's a different game than what I thought it was. I knew of the two games. I just thought that both were on the NES. I thought there was an earlier game than this. But I digress. My mistake. I made it bad. Unfortunately, this is a pretty bad game. It's not a good game at all. It's, of course, made by LJN, which if you watch AVGN is pretty spotty. I don't hate LJN as much as AVGN does. Wow, that's a whole lot of acronyms. There's a couple games that they've made that I actually really enjoy. I do like the Friday the 13th game. Coming off the top of my head, their WWE or WWF at the time, WrestleMania, was good for the time. Unfortunately, they made a lot of licensed games, and they made a lot of poor licensed games, and this is one of them. This game, to me, is a severe disappointment. I didn't have fun with it. Now, the one quality that I do like, and I will point this out before we go into our ratings, if you can't see here, which I hope is coming up decently, the game itself, the sticker on the game, very much looks like an X-Men comic book, which I love the sticker. So there's always a positive with these. I like this. I think it has some of the best game art, I guess, is where you would go with it. But I digress. Going from that, let's jump right into the ratings. As you can tell, they're probably not going to be great. Graphic-wise, I give it a 2. It's actually bad even for the time. Gameplay, I give it a 2. If you're not playing with somebody with a projectile attack, you might as well just be committing suicide. You're forced to team up with an an AI partner. AA is kind of what you need after you get drunk playing this game. An AI partner who really doesn't seem to understand the laws and physics of the games and will walk into walls, kill themselves over and over again. So, there's that. Difficulty, I give it a 1. It's not difficult. There's no challenge to it. The difficulties are some of the stupidities of the build of the game. Replay value, I give it a 1. I don't see any reason to ever play this game again. I probably will in 5 years or so when I go through my library and I go, oh, that's that X-Men game I liked. And again, I'll forget that it's not the one I liked. We talked about redeeming qualities with the sticker. Another redeeming quality is the music on this game is actually really good. I give the music a 4. It's probably the best thing about this game. Overall, I give the game itself a 2. I don't recommend unless you absolutely have to collect all the X-Men game, or you're trying to get a Nintendo full set or an LJN full set. To me, not a game I recommend. But I digress. I do love the blue shell, though. I think that's awesome, and it helps to keep that right there. Next up, we have another licensed game for a little bit newer Nintendo system. Super Nintendo's RoboCop vs. Terminator. Or RoboCop vs. the Terminator. This game actually had an upswing to it. This was another game that I remember. I didn't actually have this game. I believe my friend Jason, either my friend Jason or Matt had this. I'm not 100% sure which one, but I did play it at somebody else's house. I never owned it myself, but I remember enjoying it. I remember having a lot of fun with it, so I picked it up again. I had a lot of fun going through this game. It's a side-scrolling, Double Dragon-esque, beat-em-up type game, you know, much in the vein of all those games. Nothing really groundbreaking about the game. Nothing really detrimental about it. I thought it was a good game. It's a fun game. It's a decently priced game. I believe I had it for about $15, $20, somewhere in that range. And I bought these games actually a couple weeks ago. I've just been kind of under the weather, so I haven't been able to record this without... I haven't been able to go 5-10 minutes without coughing all over the place, so I haven't been able to record anything. But yeah, it was about a $15, $20 game, which is about what you could get it at most places. It'll spike up and down. Mostly when a new Terminator or RoboCop is talked about, it'll probably spike around those times again. I thought it was a quality game. With that being said, let's jump right into our ratings. Graphic-wise, I give it a 4. It looks about what you would expect from a beat-em-up on a Super Nintendo. I think a little bit better than a lot of people give it credit for. I like the look of this game. I think it lends to what it is and what they do. I enjoy the look of it. Gameplay, I give the gameplay a 3. Again, it's your prototypical beat-em-up game, so if you like beat-em-ups, you're going to like this. Difficulty, I give it a 3. There is a good amount of challenge to the game. It's not easy. You're going to walk through and destroy everything. And it's also not so hard that you're going to throw your controller at the wall. There's a nice little middle ground, so I give that a 3. Replay value, I give it a 4. I actually think this is something that I myself, and I know hopefully if you pick this up as well, or if you already have it in your library, it's something that I could see playing over and over and over again. Music-wise, I give it about a 3, about on par with everything on there on the Super Nintendo. Not great, not terrible. Overall, I give the game a 3. I think it's a good game. Definitely something to buy if you like beat-em-ups, if you like side-scrollers, if you're a Super Nintendo fan. Definitely a game worth getting. And I forgot to mention, I don't know if I mentioned already, but I do rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the best and 1 being the worst. So as you see, I only rated it a little bit better than the X-Men game, but not, because there's only 5 spots, it means a lot more. Basically, so 5 would be a classic, 4 would be a really good game, 3 is a good solid game, 2's a you should pass on this, and 1 is don't ever buy that. In other words, if I give a game a 1, it has no redeeming qualities. But basically, so I say this a 3, you probably should get it, a definite if you're a fan of that genre. Last but not least, this is a game I actually never heard of until the store owner and a good friend of mine, John, said, check this out. And he handed it to me. And I looked at it. And it's called Operation Logic Bomb. And another cool thing about this I want to point out before I go into my spiel, it came, obviously, from Superstore Video News in Eustis Plaza in Eustis, Florida. As you can see, there's a sticker here, harkening back to the rental games. Since the sticker isn't interfering with anything, the sticker on the game or anything else, if it was over this or this, I'd try to take it off. But I kind of dig that. That's kind of neat that it has that there still. And it's still in that good of a quality. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, I digress. But the game is Operation Logic Bomb. He handed it to me, and he hadn't heard of it either. And I hadn't heard of it. And usually, if I haven't heard of it and John hasn't heard of it, it's probably a pretty obscure game, which I found out this really isn't that obscure. It's just one of those games that slipped by both of us. I am glad he handed this to me, because I was intrigued. I looked up while I was in the store with him. Usually when I go to the store, I spend about anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half in the store, mostly talking with John about games, new, old, and all different kinds of things. My last purchases that I made, the next purchase I plan on making, my wish list, dreams, stuff he has that's crazy that hopefully one day can buy. But anyway, so we're talking about this, and I looked it up on YouTube, and I watched a little bit of gameplay while we were in the store. I said, you know what, I'll take a flyer. I'll take a chance with it. It looked interesting. It looked in the vein of Smash TV, an overhead shooter type game, or a Rygar, or games of that nature. So I gave it a shot. And I am so happy that I did. Because the game not only knocked it out of the park for me, it blew my expectations of what I was going to get. There were a couple things I don't like, and I'll mention that when I get to the review. But other than that, I thought this was a fantastic game. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a game that definitely a little bit under the radar. I don't hear a lot being said about it, so if you see this out in the wild and you're a Super Nintendo fan, I say buy this, definitely. Now, coming from that, I'm going to go right into the ratings for the game. Graphic-wise, I give it a 4. I think the graphics are really good for what they tried to do, an overhead shooter type game. Looks a lot better than Smash TV, which is what I would most compare it to. I'd actually compare it more to if Contra and, why can't I think of the name of this? Contra, you get it. It has a lot of Contra type, there's a lot of Contra elements to it, and, damn it, I can't think of it. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's an over-the-head version, though, so it's really cool. There's a lot of good stuff to it. Graphic-wise, I'm going to give it a 4. I think it looks better than a lot of the overhead-style games. Gameplay, I give it a 5. I think the gameplay is fantastic on this game. Difficulty, I give it a 3. I think there are some areas that once you figure it out are a little bit too easy. There's a couple difficult areas on the game, but a lot of stuff you could get by with relatively simple. Replay value, I give it a 4. I definitely see this as a game that I would jump back into over and over again. One of the knocks that I give to it is it's a short game. You can play the entire game all the way through in 2 to 3 hours, so there's that. If you're expecting to get 20, 30 hours of gameplay, you're not. You're going to get a couple hours, and it's going to be a fun couple hours. So to me, that helps a little bit, because if I say I have something, I'm going to do later in the day, and I got a couple hours to kill, this is one of the games I'm going to throw in and kill it doing. Music-wise, I give it a 4. I thought the music was good, fit the game really well. Overall, I give this game a 4. I think it's a really excellent game. I would say just barely off of the upper echelon of the Super Nintendo games, but not by much. I would say this is a must-grab. The only things that I think hold it back from being a 5 are how short it is. It is very short, and that is a knock. There's a couple parts that are a little bit too easy, which again is another knock to me. I like to have a little bit of a challenge to the game, but overall it does not hurt it that badly. I have my game store that I frequent, Flash Comics Games and More, in Sebring Mall in Florida, which is a great retro game store. You should definitely check it out if you're in the area. The guy that runs the place, John, he's a friend of mine, and also he gives me assurance. If I didn't like this, I could have brought it back and he probably would have gave me what I paid for it. So, can't go wrong with that, to be honest with you. And, he's a good solid dude, so I'm very happy he put this in my hands. I really am. This is probably... This and Teen Titans for the GameCube, which was a game I never heard of before either. I don't know why either of these. Teen Titans is more of a surprise to me because I'm a Teen Titans fan and I love GameCube games. So I don't know why I never heard of that. But he put both of these in my hands, and they're the two things that he's recommended that I've liked the most. And I really enjoy it. But basically, pull out my haul here, and I love this blue case, by the way, which is why I keep showing it off. Only buy if you're trying to collect X-Men, NES, LJN games. If you have some kind of collection going, other than that, not worth buying at all. Definitely buy. This is a buy if you like something in the vein of a Final Fight, of Narc, of Double Dragon, of the side-scrolling type beat-em-up games. Definitely this is worth a worthwhile look. And this game, I think no matter what type of game you like, you will enjoy this. This is such a fun game. I can't say enough about how much fun I had with the game. But with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Retro Game Treasure Hunting.